They told us the moon was just a rock, a silent witness in the dark. But in 1958, it became a target. One launch, one flash, and the night sky almost changed. Forever. October 4th, 1957, a date that triggered a collective nervous breakdown in the Western world. High above the clouds, a small, polished sphere was circling the globe. Its name, Sputnik. It did nothing but beep. But to the American public, that beep was a countdown. The Soviet Union hadn't just reached space, they had claimed it. The United States, the self-proclaimed leader in technology, was suddenly looking up at a sky that felt occupied. The fear wasn't just about satellites, it was about the ultimate high ground. If the Soviets could put a ball in orbit, they could put a nuclear warhead over Washington. In the frantic months that followed, the Pentagon was desperate for a win. Not a scientific victory. They needed a psychological sledgehammer, something so undeniable, so terrifyingly bright, that no one on Earth could ignore it. This was the birth of Project A119, a top-secret mission that asked a question that seems like madness today. Can we nuke the moon? They didn't want to study it. They wanted to scar it. They wanted to use our celestial neighbor as a billboard for American destruction. But why the moon? To understand the why, you have to understand the ego of the 1950s. The US Air Force believed they were losing the PR war. They needed a stunt. The logic was as simple as it was brutal. If we hit the moon with a nuclear bomb, the dust cloud would be caught in the sunlight. It would create a glowing halo around the dark side of the moon. For a few hours, the entire planet would stop and stare at a man-made explosion in the heavens. It was the ultimate vignette of power. They even researched the exact location, the Terminator line, the border where the sun's light meets the moon's shadow. An explosion there would be perfectly backlit, visible to anyone on Earth, with simple binoculars. Think about the terrifying ambition of that thought. In 1958, the US government was seriously considering the permanent radioactive contamination of the most important object in our night sky, just to prove they could. They were willing to trade the purity of the heavens for a few hours of global awe. To make this happen, the Air Force assembled a dream team. Among them was a young, brilliant doctoral student named Carl Sagan. Yes, the same man who would later teach us to love the pale blue dot. At 24, Sagan's task was grim. He wasn't looking for life. He was calculating the behavior of a nuclear dust cloud in a vacuum. Because there is no air on the moon, a nuclear explosion doesn't look like it does on Earth. There is no mushroom cloud. Instead, it's a spherical, blinding burst of energy and debris, expanding at thousands of miles per hour. They settled on the W-25 warhead. It was small, about 1.7 kilotons. For comparison, the Hiroshima bomb was 15 kilotons. It was a tactical strike, but the math was dangerous. If the rocket failed, a common occurrence in the 50s, the warhead could have landed anywhere: Miami, London, or right back on the launch pad. By January 1959, the blueprints were ready. The math was verified. The rocket was waiting. But then, the project hit a wall of silence. The military high command began to realize that the PR victory could easily become a global nightmare. If the rocket exploded on launch, it would rain plutonium over Florida. If it missed the moon, a nuclear ghost would circle our heads forever. Ultimately, the project was quietly filed away in a drawer marked Top Secret. They realized that the moon was more valuable as a future destination than a temporary billboard. In 1963, the Limited Test Ban Treaty was signed, officially making nuclear explosions in space illegal. The match was never struck. The moon stayed dark. Physically, a detonation of 1.7 kilotons would have been almost nothing. A brief flash, a small crater. The lunar surface has endured impacts thousands of times more powerful. Human weapons are just sparks against a mountain. But let's assume for a moment that humanity didn't stop at nuclear weapons. Imagine an impact on the scale of an asteroid that reshapes worlds. An energy release far beyond anything our civilization could realistically produce. This is no longer Cold War physics. This is planetary violence. In this hypothetical nightmare, a colossal impact doesn't just carve a crater, it redistributes mass. It ejects plumes of lunar debris into space, directly into the path of the Earth. From our backyards, we wouldn't see a silent moon anymore. We would see a halo of shards, a shimmering arc of debris catching the sunlight, a fractured scar across the night sky. If such a blast were powerful enough to nudge the moon's velocity by even a fraction, the clockwork of the Earth would begin to fail. The moon is our stabilizer. It keeps our planet's tilt steady. But if its grip begins to slip, the Earth begins to wobble. It would be a slow, relentless decay. Over geological timescales, the Earth's axis would wander. The seasons would lose their rhythm. The Arctic would drift into prolonged summers, melting ice sheets millions of years old. Later, the tilt shifts again, plunging tropical forests into a centuries-long deep freeze. Civilizations rise during periods of climatic stability, destabilize the system, and the foundation beneath our cities and ecosystems begins to crack. We wouldn't just be looking at a damaged moon. We would be confronting a destabilized Earth, drifting into climates our species was never meant to survive, all because we once believed power was something to be demonstrated instead of understood. Carl Sagan later reflected on the arrogance of that era. He realized that our power to destroy was growing much faster than our wisdom to preserve. 10 years after A119 was cancelled, we didn't send a bomb. We sent Neil, Buzz, and Michael. We chose to leave a footprint instead of a crater. A119 remains a ghost in the archives, a reminder of a time when humanity almost blinded itself by nuking its only nightlight. Because sometimes, the most important part of our history isn't what we did. It's what we were smart enough to leave undone.